Hey, what's up, everybody? So, IGN has a new interview with Kitase Hamaguchi. The Kitase Hamaguchi World Tour keeps going. And Nojima, my man Nojima. Everybody knows Nojima is my spirit animal. That is my rock star. Kazushige Nojima, absolutely. All right, so IGN's got a new interview up with these guys. A couple of the points that are made about a couple things were covered in an interview video that I did earlier this past week, but we're going to cover them again because the answers are just, they're not different, but they're worded differently, so we're just going to cover it all again. The interview is conducted by Zachary Ryan, who's the director of editorial video at IGN. So he's the one conducting the interview and asking the questions. So we'll get into it. When asking what Square Enix would say to fans who were hoping for a more straightforward remake to Final Fantasy VII rather than the reimagining they received, Kitase responds with this: "We, the development team, our fans, and the state of the world have continued to change over the past 23 years, which that's absolutely true. While the world is undergoing dramatic changes, we thought that remaking the game based on the same merits as 23 years ago may evoke nostalgia, but would not deliver on the element of surprise that is innate to Final Fantasy." Which I did kind of talk about that before. I was like, they're trying to change things up so it's not too predictable. Basically what he's saying. He goes on to say, "I believe we will be able to welcome this project with the same rush of excitement felt back in the days of the original game." So on that note, real quick, it's really... right now, the fan base seems kind of like split, but I think more people than not have really enjoyed their experience with the game and are looking forward to the second one. I am super ready for part 2. Ryan goes on to ask about Red 13, if there was ever a point where he was playable, and Hamaguchi replies that no. We felt that many players familiar with the original would want to control the character, but as he appears toward the end of this game, we were careful about disruptions to the overall tempo that may occur by treating him in the same manner as the other main characters who appear earlier. That absolutely makes sense. I think we've already kind of figured that out, right? I think a lot of people already kind of have talked to these people and have kind of spread the word, but I don't think this is the first official word I've seen on it. Let's see, he continues, "We also felt for new players, it may seem odd to have control over a new character so late into this game, and we couldn't introduce him earlier. Final Fantasy VII Remake is a multi-game project, and as such, I believe there will be opportunities to control Red 13 in the future, so it'd be great if Red 13 fans can look forward to this." So as I said in the interview earlier this week, please be excited. Please be excited. If it was news that Red 13 is going to be playable in the next game, that's not news, people. That's common sense. Of course he's going to be playable in the next game. I feel like that wasn't even a point that I need to make. It's just in the interview, so I felt like I didn't have to report on that. Mr. Ryan then asks about Jessie and stated that the world fell in love with her thirsty ass. He didn't say thirsty ass, by the way. They ask if they expected her to be such a breakout character with the fans. I believe I saw this in another video that I posted this past week as well, but I believe it was Kitase that answered that, so let's look at Hamaguchi's response here. "This isn't specific to Jessie, but by shining a spotlight on the Avalanche members that have been beloved by fans since the original game, we were conscious about adding depth to the story by depicting aspects that were not illustrated in the source material, particularly the fight that unfolds in the Sector 7 slums from Chapter 12 is one of the peaks of the Avalanche story. It showcases the Avalanche members' determination and adds more tension to the story. Actually, many development staff had a good impression of Jessie from the time we were developing the game, and we are extremely happy to see her popularity skyrocket far more than we had expected." I think Kitase said something to the effect of it wasn't a big surprise to him and the team, because they all loved Jessie back when they were originally developing the game. Something like that. So now Ryan asks a big question, okay, that has been kind of answered in the past, but it's been in passing. They talked about it in passing. And the replies have been kind of wishy-washy. The interviewer, who was Ryan, goes on to ask why the decision was made to replace the English voice cast. This is one of the big chunks of news from this article. Kitase replies, the original game obviously never had a voice cast. We began using voice actors for the characters starting with the second work in the compilation, the sequel movie Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. For the film, the characters were already older than in the original game, and 15 years have passed since then. We've continued to work with the same voice actors over numerous projects, which they have. However, since this title is set in an era that precedes Advent Children with a younger cast, we wanted to discover a new generation of voice actors that would be suitable for expressing younger versions of the characters. While expressing our utmost respect for to the Advent Children cast, I look forward to the future success of the new cast. So there you officially have it. The answer that many of us have been wanting an official word on for a while, right? So not only that, but Kitase future endeavored the former voice cast. So I would take that as they will not be back for any projects, the original voice cast. I do get what he's saying, though. The voice acting world is super crowded and hard to break into, for one thing, from people I've talked to, especially to land a big, hot gig like Final Fantasy VII Remake. So this scenario where Square is giving a new generation of actors a chance to inhabit these roles and shine is incredible in my eyes. The previous voice actors are either still working or they're semi-retired right now. Plus, we got some amazing performances from actors we otherwise would not have known about previously. So I think this was a good decision at the end of the day. I know a bunch of people have different varying opinions on this, but that's my take. Then Ryan brings up how the Honeybee Inn sequence, okay, and this one right here was also covered in an interview I did earlier this week, so we're going to keep talking about it though. He brings up how the Honeybee Inn sequence was praised for how it adapted that original segment and asks what the goals were behind how they changed it. So, yeah, we already covered this, but we'll go ahead and read Hamaguchi's response. Hamaguchi replies, though I'm feeling good about the player responses we've been seeing, it's also a fact we faced many decisions on how to update and portray the Honeybee Inn. We decided to largely reimagine the events that unfold throughout Wall Market, including Honeybee Inn, based on the following direction. If we're going to change it, we might as well make it highly entertaining. We reference things like the French Moulin Rouge and Japanese burlesques, which they did talk about that in the earlier interview from this past week, so that checks that box. So the Honeybee Inn would have this dance-off element. Furthermore, we tried to be creative in carrying over the seductive approach taken with the Honeybee Inn in the original to Madame M's massage parlor, and which is in the remake. So this right here they didn't talk about before. In essence, we are paying homage to the enchantment of Wall Market, so I believe we were able to make the area feel familiar yet new, rather than a departure from the source material. I can dig that. You know what I mean? I can dig that. Okay, so this is something I had been waiting for someone to ask someone important at Square about. Okay, this is something I've been waiting on somebody to ask somebody important there about. The interviewer asks about Hell House and states that Cloud and Aerith seem shocked upon seeing it. No shit. How do you fight a house? And he goes on to say, how do you fight a house? The interviewer asks how early into development was it before someone on the team asks, how do you fight a house? Hamaguchi takes this one. Okay, let's see. It's the fact that we were challenged quite a bit with Hell House. Many of the enemies featured in the original Final Fantasy VII are iconic, but with the graphics becoming more realistic, it was a challenge to think of convincing reasons why these enemies would have come to exist within the world. And that makes sense because everybody before the game came out was like, you know, how are they going to do Hell House? Everybody's like, how are they going to do Hell House? In the original game, Hell House was an enemy that could be randomly encountered near Wall Market, but we determined that no matter how we approached it, we simply could not think of a setting in which it would be natural to find it wandering the slums in Remake. So it was decided from the early stages of development that we would give Hell House a special portrayal as a boss in Wall Market. I dig it. I dug it. Already been dug. As a matter of fact, I fought him again on hard mode last night, getting Cloud's last manuscript. And in reimagining Wall Market itself, we were searching for a way to portray the city as an avenue of entertainment that would be accepted across a wide variety of cultures and ages, while capturing the feel of it being an adults-only city. This led to our decision to move in the direction of creating an underground arena called Corneo Coliseum, where adults could let their excitement loose. In this case, we thought we could portray Hell House with the setting that it was made as Corneo's weapon. As a weapon, in the shape of a house, we felt it would be persuasive as a Corneo Coliseum boss. That was the right move. That was the right call. Following the release, I saw many comments from players who felt surprised by the depiction of Hell House as it appeared in the game, and as a creator, it made me happy to see that we were able to offer it in a way that got just the response we were aiming for from the fans. It was great. It was great, right? So the first time you see Hell, you go into Corneo Coliseum, you're fighting, and then the Hell House battle starts, and you hear some guy yell from the crowd like, "It's Hell House!" You know, I mean, that was pretty cool. The interviewer states that Remake Cloud seems like a much deeper character, and his arc is more motivated and interesting than in the original. I don't know if I'd say he's deeper and it's more interesting, because we haven't seen it all yet. But I'll continue. I'll calm myself, and I'll continue. How did the team decide where and how to add new dimensions and layers to the characters, and were there characters that were harder to rewrite than other characters? My boy Nojima-san takes this one. As the physical depiction of the characters have gotten far more realistic, there was a need to make their inner depiction with a similar sense of realism. First and foremost, there were personalities that I had imagined these characters having back when creating the original, so I wrote the scenario this time by recollecting those memories. It wasn't so much depicting a new side, but rather just now bringing out a side to them that existed back then but wasn't fully portrayed at the time. Of course, I don't remember everything, so there are parts that I newly created this time around as well. By adding new expressive elements such as voiceovers, action movements, and facial expressions, each with their own additional layers of passion and interpretation of the members who handled them, we were able to ultimately create these remake characters. I also heavily referenced the expanded compilation titles, which portrayed these characters with more realistic CG for the first time and with voiceover. Aerith was a challenging character. I get the impression that she's highly revered. Yeah, just a little bit, based on her story in the original. So I wanted to convey a more down-to-earth side of her in this game that I don't feel was shown before. That's interesting. I do like how quirky and down-to-earth and weird she is in this game. You know what I mean? That was one of the highlights of the game for me, was how Aerith was portrayed throughout the game in the lighthearted moments. This man is such a talented storyteller. Damn. I mean, come on. You know, I can listen to him talk about everything he's written and thought processes behind his like different characters and stories and theories. I could listen to that all damn day. So Ryan wraps up the interview by talking a bit about Avalanche and how, as a team, is a much bigger part of Remake. He asks how they balance the character building of individual team members and how do those characters inform Avalanche's overall mission statement. Again, we are graced with a response from Nojima. By depicting the affinity between the individual Avalanche members, I wanted to portray their bond as well as the alienation Cloud must have initially felt. At the same time, I wanted to portray how Cloud was gradually accepted into the group. I felt that through this approach, players would be able to further immerse themselves in the world within the game. Additionally, the movement by Avalanche ends up causing a great amount of damage to Midgar, even if the Shinra company had a part in it. What they did wasn't permissible. As such, they end up being heavily condemned for their actions. But I wanted to portray what was going on through the minds of these youths that caused these incidents, as well as what they felt as they took part in the movement. Save the planet is upheld as a theme for their movement. But as you can see in Tifa's inner struggles, I feel as if they've come to a point of no return because they had pushed forward with such a strong sense of duty and zeal. In terms of their interpersonal relationships and their balance, I reference their relationships as in bonds in Japanese animation that can be seen since the olden days. That's interesting. Okay, so that concludes the interview. So basically, there's definitely an anime feel to how the characters bond and react to each other, but there's also like a Western storytelling influence in there too, especially with like characters like Barrett and Aerith to a certain extent. You know what I mean? So all the characters are great. Nojima is just a storytelling god, man. This guy is amazing. I'm going to be diving into some more Nojima games here pretty soon that he actually wrote and had a heavy hand in. But this was great. All the points they covered, they talked about the voice actors. They talked about, went in depth about what they were thinking when they were developing the characters. This is candy to me. This is all candy. I love this. Is the kind of stuff I just want to eat up. You know what I mean? I just want to eat this stuff up like candy. I could read stuff like this all day, but I didn't know how many of you all had seen this yet. I want to put that out there. I want to get my thoughts on it for you all to enjoy and check out. So if you all dug that video, throw a like on it, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell. You know the drill. Drop an elbow on that bell. Hit that subscribe button. You know what I mean? Not really. You'll break your phone. But anyway, y'all have a great night. Keep rocking. Be good to each other. Stay safe. And I will catch you all very soon. Have a great night.